Did I hit the nail on the head? As considered that possibility, I felt a cold, damp breeze from behind me. She was staring at me. She was staring at me from staring at something behind me. I turned around, following the direction of her eyes. How long had the front door been open? Had I forgotten to lock the door? And how long had that thing been behind there? There was a person outside. Was it even human? Though the darkness, I could see that it definitely had a humanoid silhouette. But it was definitely abnormal. Is that the news lady? Its body was covered in bandages, no sriracha. It was a smallish boyish or girl covered in marked cloth. Again, was it even human? I asked the same question again, unable to even voice the words. I couldn't move a finger, or rather I didn't because I had no idea what would have happened if I did. As tension began to overwhelm me, I saw its lips move. The wolf cometh to the smell of Yomi. Cleanse, shelter, and dream. Daughter of Fushiyoshi. I heard something fall. Turning back around, I realized it was Chimi. Chimi? Still confused, I rushed over and caught her. It was momentarily lost of consciousness. She hadn't faint. She just seemed to be drifting at the border of reality. Hey, wake up. What was that thing? Chimi stood up. Her eyes were utterly devoid of life. She headed to the door. It was closed. There was no one there. I set the matters aside for now. Chimi was way more important. I had to stop her. That was why I'll take you out of here. Wrapped my arms around her. If you want to throw away your life, give it to me. Tomorrow morning, I'll take you and Mako and leave this place. That was her first response in a while. Well, you entrusted her to me. I'll honor the trust you showed me until the end. You notice, there's also the fact that I'm just not too keen on letting a child die. You don't like it? Go out with me? So let's get out of here. That's not very responsible, is it? Leave it to me. Also, we're taking anyone who wishes to join us. You are. The others have a choice, but now that we're dating, I'm taking you whether you like it or not. Did you know I'm not actually a very popular guy? Her teary voice compelled me to embrace her. Don't say that. Don't worry. I'm right here. I'm here for you. It hurts to say baseless things. Even so, I kept on saying whatever I could to make her feel better. This went on for only 10 or so minutes, though. Even if the wolves didn't pay us a visit, we'd have to respect the rules of living here. We awkwardly exchanged some parting words, and I saw her off as she returned to her room, parting ways with a frail smile on her damp face. Tomorrow, everything would be decided tomorrow. And thus, it is Friday. Another morning. Aside from being really hungry, I woke up the same as always. I hadn't died. The only real difference this morning was that I could go outside as I displeased. It was still misty out, and I couldn't see much beyond the dorm. A settlement isolated in mist, a space cut out away from the world. Could we really leave this place? We could. It had to be physically possible. The idea that we couldn't, just speculation, no matter how much of this place defied reality. What was that thing? Why had Chimi collapsed? How insane were we? Was this even really happening? Human senses memories often lied to us, though just the missing anything that didn't make sense as delusion wasn't a good idea. The thing that had actually visited us, its appearance was strange, but I had little proof that it was something supernatural, thus had to be human. As for the reason Chimi collapsed, there was quite a few possibilities, unless it was a trick she schemed with that thing beforehand, that being that had been too much for her to handle emotionally. What did the thing say? The wolves cometh to the smell of the Yomi, cleanse, shelter, and dream. Daughter of Fujiyoshi, was it? It basically seemed like a way of saying, get back to your room and sleep. So it was a warning from those who made the rules. Then was that something on the mountain, Great Lord Shinai side, or the gummy hole, or the white wolf? Not to be honest, I'd say it was more like something from the other side. I mean, it kind of fit my image of a Yomi Bito. It wore srirachas in place of clothing, and the cloth over its face reminded me of a funeral shroud. The words corruption seemed particularly fitting. It had a really sinister aura to me anyways. That's the same thing we saw when the old lady at the very beginning was wearing before she disappeared, before we even came into the village. Though there was, and this was strange, Great Lord Shinai was the enemy of the forces from Yomi. Yomi Beto wouldn't act as his messenger. This contradiction, it was quite eerie on the alluring unknown, but that didn't matter now. My goal was to let Chimi and another supporter we gathered escape. I returned to the room, made my futon, and started searching again. The futon was the only thing in the closet. There was nothing I could use as a weapon. I gave up, left the room, and we went to Chimi's. If the worst had come to pass, I had to fulfill her last request. The door was locked. I knew it. So the wolf was... I knocked. She came out after just a few seconds. Apparently, she was already ready to go. I want a weapon, I figured. She gave me a pretty large knife with a sheath, probably used for hunting. Got anything for yourself? Sure. I had zero confidence in pulling it off, but sometimes bravado was important to hold on to. We went to Haru-chan's room. It wasn't locked. The room was no bigger than the others, but it was a huge mess. It didn't look like there was a corpse present. She either already woke up and went outside without locking the door, or her corpse was somewhere outside. Like, I gained a habit of expecting the worst. What about Yasunaga-kun? Let's check on Meiko. Today's mist was denser than usual. Just extending my arm was enough to make my hand hazy and distant. I kept on walking, knife in my right hand and Jimmy's in left. The settlement was way too close. Quiet. We headed for the village plaza. I almost tripped a few times on the field path, but Jimmy kept on my feet. Just a few warnings. I could keep going as long as she wanted with me. We arrived at the plaza. There was no one there. Basically, there was no need to use the dining hall as the go-to gather spot anymore. We passed Reikiko's Umatsu's house. It didn't look unlocked, but I couldn't hear any addiction movement from inside. Was she asleep, or did something happen to her? Whatever the case, I had no choice but to ignore her. It was here, right? Meiko's place was open. Thankfully, all I found inside was just a messy futon. It was the same as Haru's-chan, but now that it happened with 3 people, it was safe to assume something wasn't right. Chimi, sorry, but you can have a look this back. I gave her the knife and grabbed the stick lying against the house. I need a weapon I can actually use. That aside, where do we go next? As it turned out, that was exactly where the other inhabitants were, the exception of one in a way. Haru? She was in her usual sedated state. Te Yamaoaki was silently chanting something to herself. Meiko, Haru-chan, had her hand on her shoulders but still looked ancient. And finally, good morning, Chini. Haruki Fasoshi-san. Yasunaga Orobi. His face was grim. Those were all the people here, meaning that they finally got no Sato-san, huh? A simple process of elimination was enough to know who was gone. Anyways, it was time for the first battle. Meiko, come here. She tried to walk to us. No. But Haru Meikaishima stopped her. It was time. I raised my stick and... So you finally reveal your true colors. Yasunaga Orobi stood in my way. He had a mincing look, grass sickle in his right hand, and he readied it for a swing at me. You're the cause of all the misery here. It's the end, so I knew it would come down to pure strength. You were tricked. He's the one who caused all this. Not letting him join the feast was a mistake. If we hanged him, Mom and everyone else would still be alive. We'll hang him today. That will end everything. Hasanaka-kun, you shouldn't try to advance the situation based on a story no one knows. Oh, good point. I'll tell you. I want to take back the hostage. Well, before that, let me just help Chimi-chan understand. Look how confused she is. They didn't say another word. Chimi and Meiko were the only ones who seemed confused at all. Basically, the others had prepared for this. Ignoring who's a wolf here, there's 2 important things you gotta keep in mind. First, yesterday I told Meiko I wanted to escape the settlement with her. It's best to assume everyone heard that. Escaping the village is taboo, I know that. The question is whether letting someone escape makes you a target of the corruption. That was why you secured Meiko first thing in the morning. I can totally understand that. The other thing is that Chimi, Yasunaga-kun, ended up on opposing sides yesterday. Owing to that, today's feast would be a one-on-one between them. Since Haru-chan would almost always take Yasunaga-kun's side, he'd have an advantage. But with Tei-san and Meiko as swing votes, his victory wasn't guaranteed. That's why you decided that reconciling with Chimi and going after the only outsider here was the safest way, right? You're wrong. I'm not. That's why you took Mako as a hostage. You wanted me silenced. No, I just thought you'd take her as a hostage, access to do horrible things. What would I gain from that? I mean, I'm not part of the feast. You agreed to that yourself, didn't you? That was a mistake. If it's not you, then who else could be the cause of everything here? Haruhi-chan and I lost family. Teibas lost Damakun. We all lost people important to us. Who didn't lose anything? Only you. Oh? So that was his story, huh? Sorry, Yasunaga-kun, but you're a bad storyteller. You seem to have a habit of putting up a wall of well-spoken words when lying or putting on an act. Please stop messing around. Oh, but I'm not, Yasunaga-kun. We're trying way too hard to manipulate people using their emotions. You also underestimate Chimi by thinking you can just use that as a smokescreen for the holes in your story. Well, from an emotion standpoint, blaming me for everything is definitely the easiest way. But on the other hand, you're selling yourself short. You're calm, cool, collected, the type of guy who argues against adults' absurdities with facts and logic. Please stop this pointless analysis. Well, that's something for the villagers to decide, not me. They are the ones who watched you for years. Of course, I understand you went through something difficult enough to change you. Then let me ask you this. Are you blaming everything on the outsider because you lost to your own emotions? Or are you acting rationally to make sure you hang me and waste today's feast so you can tip the scales in your favor? As in, are you someone who benefits from wasting today's lynching? What do you think, Chimi? You could have just said that I was a wolf. Yet you didn't. You just said that I'm the cause of all this because you're a wolf yourself. You hate lying, don't you? You don't know. You know, when the chips are down, you have to commit to lie. Genie, you're gonna believe him? Make an emotional appeal in your face. Cold logic is a bad move here. You need to fight logic with logic until the end. Shut up, what do you know? You just wasted time not doing anything because you couldn't. He had a point there. I did feel like shit about that. I should have joined the feast from the get-go. If I had, I wouldn't have wasted time on pointless arguments. However, you know, right here, there's a guy who can think for himself, but just play along with dumb superstitions letting both his brother and mother die. As an adult, I'm really mad at him. Once I said that, hung his head and fell silent. 10 seconds of silence were enough for everyone to realize he'd lost the argument. However, the expression on his face was abnormally calm. True, I really am a wolf. He spoke as if it wasn't a big deal, but you are misunderstanding a few things. But that just made it seem even more we already won. He tossed away the grass sickle. His voice wasn't nearly as passionate as before. It was cold and rational. The demonstrated a confidence rooted in sound logic, but I couldn't understand what he meant. Other wolf, please reveal yourself. What was the point of that? Are you sure, Yasun-kun? Yes, that's enough. I'm the other wolf. I couldn't make sense of this. He had decided to gracefully conceal by selling out his partner. Now he'd been cornered. No, he said he already won. Even if there were 2 wolves, there were 4 of us. You lose in votes. My answer came from a completely unexpected direction. A shout of pure, unadulterated joy. Haru Makishima became the least comprehensible of anyone present. She ran to and hugged him. He hesitated for a moment, but Meiko, still as clueless as ever, slowly walked over to us. I'm sorry. Hide behind Chimi. I don't know. I really didn't. But I had a feeling that something wasn't quite right for a while now, and I suspected it'd be more clear now. I was certain of it. It left me feeling uneasy. Okay, you have the initiative here. Can you explain? Teba, you do it.
ええわ
Fine,
よ。
fine.
もうずっとヤス君には頼りっぱなしだったからね。
So she wasn't even denying it.
しーちゃん、めいこちゃん、
Not me.
これは話しちゃおらんかったけどね。昔、ずーっと昔に、あたしが娘だった頃に、上富士吉の門が山祭りで酔って言う読み意味の宴についての本当のお話をね。
The truth? Teyama Aki told us a story that was very similar to the legend. Well, it was less like it was similar, more like it was looking at it from the opposite angle. The part about Great Lord Shini sending the 5 guardians to help people was the same. 4 of them teamed up with the humans to murder the wolves. However, in the real story, the good and bad sides were completely reversed. Apparently, the people and the 4 guardians joined Yomi at the very first at the beginning of the purge. Basically, all of them were Yami Bito. They all ganged up on the overpowered and expulsed the wolves, who tried to resist until the very end. That meant this land had belonged to the Yami Bito for a long time. The wolves were summoned here by none other than Shimani-sama himself. Some people of the Yasumizu were given the blessing of the wolves and had to free Yamazasu of the Yamibito. Basically, it was a holy war for them, and that was the truth behind the Feast of the Yomi Purge. Te Yamaaki continued her explanation.
そんなもんは上富士吉の方々があたしたちをバカにしてからだけどそうじゃない。本当じゃと親鸞様は加護をくださるとともにそう言われなさった。じゃからね、ちいちゃん、あたしらはみんな亡きにしてやらねばならんかったのよ。つらかったけどもね。匠も苦しそうにしとったけれど、でもこうしてやらねば読み人は救われんと親鸞様は言われるのよ。
Teyama Aki was crying. All right, so she was now confirmed the culprit who believed the murders to be salvation. There were just 2 more points I didn't understand. The corruption and the eerie message. Most things made sense if you switched Shinai's enemies and allies. The idea that people wearing these outfits could be the good guys was actually kind of weird, but, well, that was the culture here. Maybe only the Yabi Ito, me too, saw them as evil. Maybe that was the story here. The problem was that Chimi didn't know this. So even Yasunaga-kun didn't know about it. I remembered some of his words. This is just something I heard from a teacher at school, but you could do it by giving them something to fight for, couldn't you? Basically, you need to make them think that they're doing the right thing. He really hated lies, didn't he? He basically told me the truth of things. This feast actually had a system that made zealous murderers of people. Whatever. Enough about the Yasunaga Orobi. Then why did Haru-chan know? She was just glad she realized was a wolf. Basically, she already knew the real story. That's the wolves were the good guys. Why? Who told her?
狼様が私に教えてくれた。おじいちゃんが死んだ日に私の夢に出てそう教えてくれたんだ。
Nonsense. Insanity. Did she seriously decide to throw her life away over a dream? But on the day Oji died, he died the night before Haru-chan tried to run away from the settlement. She believed the dream. She stated to despair over being surrounded by the Yami Beto and planned to escape. That made
でも
sense.
タエバーはきっと正しい言い伝えを知ってると思った。なのに言い出さないから、もしかしたらって思ってたし、兄ちゃんは二人で話した時、もしかしたらって思って。
It all clicked. She believed. She believed the sudden realization, despite a lack of proof that the man she liked was in the minority that had justice on their side. And right now she said that she would betray the humans and join the wolves. She believed Yasunaga Orobi was right with all of her heart, and so the wolf Yasunaga Orobi had 3 votes for the feast. I can't be killed even if Chini and Meiko both vote for me. Even if you bend the rules, count Pasution vote, it's still just 3. You couldn't choose one even if did a final vote. Now without either wolf dying, we win. It was easy. I saw it clearly now. I understood.
さん、それって。
Yeah, Yasunaga-kun is right. You know we lose. Everyone had different reactions to my words. Jamie backed away and grasped. Teiyama and Aki closed her eyes and sighed. Meiko didn't seem to understand anything. Yasunaga Orobi didn't react at all. Haru Makishima was smiling. Oh man, all I had left was struggling like the filthy, annoying adult I was. Haru-chan.
兄ちゃん、この不妻子さんはどうなるの？
I'll ignore him if he doesn't interfere.
そう。
Was that relief just now? Sorry, but I couldn't enjoy my sudden jump in
な
popularity.
きにせいでもええのかね。
Shinai-sama will do something if needed to be. The dispassionate tone didn't do much to convince me truly believe this ridiculous superstition. But you wouldn't ignore this, will you? Who knows? Honestly, if you're the good guys, I don't know if I should help the Yamabeto side.
春秋さん。
You're cooler than I thought. We city folk value a well-reasoned argument. I want to say I mistook you. It's the right decision. Very right, in fact. Big words.
ちょっと。
Hey, what the hell? You said you liked Chini, didn't you?
あなたあ
Now
れ
you're
だけ
gonna abandon
ジェネの
her?
ことが好きとか言っておいて見捨てるの？
Good point. Well, I was pretty damn cold-blooded. I'm not too fond of being hit where it hurts, so I guess I'll respond. Haru-chan?
何よ。
You know you're gonna die, right? You're okay with that?
Eh?
This was pretty damn bad, honestly. Apparently this great Lord Shini was a huge scumbag. You should have told her that much. Even if you've been told the real story, you're still a human. You haven't became a wolf, have you? You didn't kill Takumi-san or Nosato, right?
殺してないけど。
I don't know why, but you're just a human who knows the real story. That's why the human's defeat will mean your death. You said you thought Yasunaga-kun might have been a wolf when you talked together, right? I don't think he would ever let anything like that slip. So he'd probably realize your role from the way you were acting. He was probably trying to lead you by showing hints, but not revealing his identity in order to test whether you join him. The wolves probably knew that there was a human who would have that role. What of it? He actually said that. That was the part where he was supposed to start lying. By denying it, you basically admitted that you were an absolute scumbag who used Haru-chan knowing that you'd had to kill her. He was that bad at lying, then how did he survive so long? Wait, something was very wrong. I seriously misunderstood something here. Soon enough, my hunch was proven right.
ほんと
Seriously?
それが
What of
なん
it?
だってのかしらね。
Haru-chan was brimming with joy, a carefree smile, laced with seductive
読み
intoxication.
人はくくられなきゃならない。汚れた、醜い、おぞましい私たちには狼様の渦と爪だけが救いなの。誰だってわかるわ。だから兄ちゃんは香織さんを手にかけたんだもんね。お母さんを幸せにするために。
その通り。
兄ちゃん、春も幸せにして。
Haru Makishima quaintly leaned on him. Yasunaga Arobi brought her closer with even a flicker of emotion crossing his face. Taisuyama Aki watched them with a bored smile. What? What the hell? What were these people? So, Chini, what will you do? If you listen to me, I'll save you. I underestimated it. I underestimated the madness of Yasunamizu and realized too late. The feast of the Yomi Purge wasn't just a system where zealous murderers kill each other. There was something here that completely shattered the people on a fundamental level. It was like the gears of madness. Those who knew the real story found salvation in death. That instantly convinced people that it was right to agree and to find peace in that. I was actually surrounded by those very people. Understanding that made me remember that she was from here too. Jimmy was trying to take a step forward. I should have realized this earlier. She who was afraid of God was just like them, who accepted their salvation. Both branded of madness probably had roots in the exact same thing. So she was just as susceptible to madness as they were. However, it wasn't too late for her. Yasunaga Arobi's expression stayed the same. But right before I looked away from him, I saw a slight change. It was bitterness, irritation. Something out of place was on a Victor's face that made me realize that his plan for this wasn't lost to madness, that I had no choice but to take advantage of the opportunity. I grabbed Chimi's hand. I pulled with so much force that she fell on her backside, but I didn't care. I dashed past her and swung my weapon at Yasunaga Arobi. I hit Haru Kishima once, Kisama twice, and Yasunaga 5 or 6 times. Then I ran into Chimi and Mako, completely dumbfounded, and fled the hall. There was no time to waste. I had to hurry and escape. If I didn't, I'd waste the one chance he'd given me. Hey, Jimmy. This Nakun really has a good head on his shoulders, doesn't he? I was probably irritated, but not just because of hunger. It was because of the infinity I had, because it had taken me so long to reach it. Asnaga Orobi had a different motive. You have a crush on Chimisaura, so you didn't want to hurt her, no one else. So you used what little reason you still had to conclude the way to save her through escape. But letting someone escape would be subjecting everyone else to corruption, so you had to have me beat up everyone and take her by force to avoid that. If he didn't intend to let me run away, he wouldn't have thrown away the sickle. He was basically signaling for me to understand what family attacking him. In the end, he was far more clever than me. I never stopped dancing tune. Regardless of, no, exactly because of that, I had to help these two escape no matter what. After all, I'm an adult. By the way, using an adult without relying on oneself was a very adult thing to do. Good luck with the rest. We've crossed the field of paths. I went past the stone graves. over the boundaries. Descending the cliff took a lot of patience. It didn't seem like they were chasing on us. We'd go down carefully. Jamie's expression was dead. She'd been hit by a sudden realization the game board had been flipped on her. She lost, and now she had to suddenly say goodbye to her old friends. It was hard to just laugh that off. Should I have told her about Yasunaga's intentions? I did consider it, but I didn't bring myself to. He chose to save her by sacrificing their relationship. She knew she'd probably want to go back to the settlement, or maybe I didn't want to say it because of my pride as a man. That was fine by me too. Being able to shrug off such unfairness was one of the blessings of adulthood. So I concealed Chimi and shouted to Mako to be more careful and generally talk to as many people as I could. The mist grew even denser. Hey Chimi, I think we're already outside the village.
そうかもね。
We did it. And look, nothing
や
happened.
った
Yep, now let's cross the river and return to town.
川どっち
I couldn't see anything. I hadn't just lost my bearings, it was far worse than that. I couldn't even see Chimi Miko's face. I was actually holding their hands. We were already at the bottom of the cliff, walking on the stones below. We heard water, so it was clear we weren't close to the river, but I didn't know if we kept going right now. Let's rest. Can't, Chimi. I thought she was gonna freak out again, but that's not it. She
聞
stopped,
こえないかな。水音以外に何か。
confused. I strained my ears. What am I supposed to hear?
ワンワン
追ってきてる。
They were acting strange. I strained my ears again. Was it above us? I could hear the faint sounds of rustling leaves.
逃げなきゃ。
もう疲れ
春明さん、メイコちゃんを。
The intensity in Chimi's voice made the situation worse. What if the sound was just a window? But I would have been lying if I wasn't worried. After all, a question remained unanswered. According to the legend, there was their IQ. Wait, they were the good guys, right? Still, this wasn't a normal place. I had to get out of here ASAP. After a while, I was forced to recognize the abnormality. We couldn't reach the river. I ran along the riverside bed. It should have been small, just a few meters wide. But even after 10 minutes of running, there was no sight of the river. We couldn't get anywhere. It was just like wandering wrong phenomenon where people wandering snowy peaks lose their sense of direction, just walking in circles. However, even if my sight was limited, could anyone get lost in such a small riverbed? I could hear the stream right next to me. This felt so wrong. I was as good as blind. All I could trust were my ears, but that made me realize how useless that was to rely on. I trusted my sense of direction with each passing second, so the sounds of parting grass in the distance, claws stepping on rocks. It felt like they were getting closer. I couldn't be certain. Eventually, we slowed down. The others didn't say anything, but they were clearly exhausted. We hadn't eaten for days, and not to mention the dense mist made our clothes all uncomfortably damp and cold. We walked around the riverbed without an utter clutter. The sound of water wasn't getting closer, but something else sure was. Something I didn't know scared me. The chill and the fear strangled me like a brute as I carried Mako past from exhaustion. Suddenly the hand I was tugging became heavier. Kimi had stopped.
春明さん。
She called my name through the mist. What? I tried to sound but wasn't confident. I pulled it out.
ダメだ。これ。
Her voice suggested the image of a grin smile. What are you saying? Unlike before, I couldn't manage the definite tone we'd use whenever she said something stupid. It was true that something unnatural was happening, and there was no simple explanation. Jimmy was wearing down, both physically and emotionally. Let's rest a bit. We'll get through this. If we don't go just a bit further, don't
ダメ
worry.
だよ。無理だよ。
Why?
あのね、私がいたらきっと川は越えられないんだ。
What? That was
っ
like...
て言ってた
じゃん。読み人は私たちの方だ。だから。
So you're not worthy of crossing or
だって
something?
私、小さい頃からずっと休みずのものを食べてきた。それに、私は、汚れてるから。
Chimi. I turned around, pulled her by my arms. I looked at her face from point blank. It was covered in brown and yellow blisters. Before I could even be surprised or disgusted, I just kissed her. The sugary taste of blood, pus, rusted, filled my mouth and spread throughout my throat. I didn't care. To discard all unnecessary emotions, I hugged her as hard as I could. My breathing and thoughtless ceased. I kept it up until the pain began to fade, then disappeared completely. Eventually, our lips were separated again. She pronounced words over breaths.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。本当。ごめん。
Even so, I hugged her tight. I couldn't lose to something so ridiculous. She weakly hugged me back, but she couldn't keep it up for long. Let's go. Let's go. The presence in the distance was definitely closing in. We walked. I felt like I'd been walking for several hours. Pursuers were closer now. Chimi was slowly but surely getting weaker by the second. Her speed lacked with each step, and the weight on my arms was becoming heavier. I could hear her coughing and vomiting something out. She apologized every time she did. I basically played with, "It's alright." We walked. Chimi's feet began to make wet sounds with every step we walked. Maybe it would actually been for only a few minutes. We walked. Chimi kept apologizing. Maybe we hadn't even moved a single meter. We walked. Maybe none of this was real. Then, maybe nothing that happened here would be weird. Eventually, Chimi called out to me, hoarse voice.
春秋さん、
The fact that she said something different had sparked.
あり
So,
がとう。
thank you. Her gratitude was followed by another wet
楽
sound.
しかった。
I had fun. With those final words, her weight vanished. It was strange. After all, I was still holding her hand. Or rather, only her hand. With a splash, her body fluid spread on with her limbs and entrails just collapsed. Kimi was gone, leaving behind her rotting hand. As her remains were piling up the mist ahead, I had a strange certainty I couldn't touch it ever again. Was this what they called the Yamibito? I couldn't accept this no matter what.
私の何でもいいから、どこか一部だけでも外に連れてって。
I put the hand in my jacket pocket. I took Mako and still sleeping, shifted my grip to make carrying her easier. I continued walking for too long. Mako woke up. She was shocked that Chimi was gone and cried for a bit. Then she said she wanted to walk by herself, so I put her down on the ground. The very next moment she was dragged into the mist. It was clearly a malicious force that did that. To me, it looked like a furry arm. A scream resounded. It was an abnormal animalistic scream. After hesitating for a moment, I turned to run, caught a glimpse of something beastly in the mist. I ran. And ran. Suddenly I felt myself step into something wet. I had arrived at the river. It was meaningless. I lost everything. In the end, only I survived.
私の何でもいいから、
Was there any meaning in fulfilling that promise?
外に
No. The meaning was for me to find. That was why I had to survive and find a forest. Yeah, I still had that hope back then. They finally broke through the mist and showed themselves. Oh, of course. This really was hell, wasn't it? This wasn't the human realm or Nevada. It was the river of hell. Of course both sides of it were gonna be hell. There was no splash. We threw Tamaki's body in. Was there. The moment we went into the mist and down the cliff, Bodies vanished from the world and reached a place from where there was no return. I finally had no choice but to accept it. As someone who had taken in the flesh and blood of the Yamabito, Chimi, I couldn't escape either. That's why I screamed stupidly and only managed to run a few steps before their sinister claws tore me apart. Damn it. Where had I gone wrong? Descending into Saganara, not believing Chimi was the one that told me we couldn't escape? No, I went back even earlier than that. I already knew the answer. Shit, I really wished we'd been part of Yasunami and pitches in the feast of the Yomi Purge. Maybe I could have gotten a different ending than this. That was the last thought that went through my mind before it all fading away. And that's the end of the game. Woo! Look at us go. Let's go. It's great. Alright. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this wonderful game. If it lets me continue, then I will continue.